actually want to like discuss the nuance of this.
No, I am discussing nuance. I think that your worldview
You're
leads
really
to very
not.
bad
You
outcomes.
literally just said, "Give me a yes or no answer." No, I don't like
because
your
you're
nuanced answer. Give me a yes or no answer. Are you serious?
Nuance. No, hold on. Nuance is not the same as refusing to give a yes or a no. You can give all the nuance that you want and also give a clear yes or a no.
Sometimes it's not just a yes or a no. Sometimes you have to make a nuanced case for sometimes yes and sometimes no. There are some people who have like premature ejaculations. They'll even do it like in public without touching or anything like that. They don't mean to. It's not like, you know.
What the fuck am I listening to?
But it still occurs. I think that people can orgasm in public in ways that aren't very like harmful. But I think that there are ways that are harmful.
Okay, so I want to give you another scenario based on what you've already said, and I want you to tell me if it is or if it is not harmful. Okay?
I think we've walked through enough of these examples. I don't really know what else you're trying to get out of this.
No, I'm trying to test your values.
I feel like we really, really have... I mean, yeah, of course you're trying to test me. You've tested me like 5 times now, and I've been pretty consistent.
No, you have not been consistent. I can't even get a baseline level of what your views are. You've not given a clear answer to any, like, almost any of the questions I've asked. So I just want to try... I'm trying to ask questions to figure out what...
I'm coming at this late, so I missed what came before this, but
example, based on what you have already
Riley
said,
is legitimately interrupting this person a lot.
Maybe
it's justified. I haven't seen
what
came before, but
okay, that sounds really cool. We haven't done this yet. I'd really like to.
Okay, so let's say that you have the person from the example that you tweeted about, your partner, foot fetish. You go out with your partner. You know that your partner has a foot fetish. You intentionally and primarily do not wear.
What have I walked into, guys?
To your partner's foot fetish.
Someone in my server told me to look at this. What the hell am I listening to?
That there are children around, but there are children around. Your partner, who also does not necessarily care if there are children around, ends up getting off, orgasming as a consequence of you specifically appealing to their foot fetish. Do you think that there is any harm incurred to the children, even though that was not necessarily intentionally a part of the situation? Yes or no?
From the way you've described that, no, I don't believe a harm was done to those children.
Okay.
Well, were they aware of it? I didn't catch that. Because if they're not aware of it, then it's like...
Thank you.
Like it's weird and gross, but
so this is why I would
it's not part of their experience.
Your framing of this. Because I would say that doing that violates categorically the consent of the children, and therefore causes them harm. That is my issue with what you are... That's my issue with what you're proposing.
What consent did you violate?
Because you engage in sexual acts around children by engaging in incredibly risky behavior.
Wait a minute. Is RGR arguing that if somebody gets off privately without people knowing, that therefore that's violating the consent of people in the vicinity?
Let me give you an example of this. Do you
think... No, actually, let me give you an
example. Like, if someone's having, like, lustful thoughts about not children, hopefully, while in the vicinity of children, are they violating their... That doesn't make any sense.
To other people
if this was, like, displayed...
There were people...
If this was displayed, there'd be a point here, but... This seems very strange. I don't even want to comment on this, though, because it's so fucking creepy.
From the guy
like, what is this?
Looking at me and desiring me sexually.
How did this conversation start?
Paid to fuck my bleeding holes and then sticking his fingers down my throat so I'll puke for him so he can make me eat it before he shoots his load into my ass, okay? There's a very big difference between the desire of the first person and the actual act of the second person. These are fundamentally different. My consent wasn't broken when someone was looking at me, you know, with desire. That's not...
Oh my god, guys, calm down.
Alright. I am sorry.
That violated my consent.
That is awful. That does not have to do with this conversation.
Absolutely does, because your definition of sex acts includes the man who was looking at me, wanting to buy me, but not doing it.
This is so freaking weird.
TOS, but let me be clear. All right.
We're still doing the kink at pride thing?
Everything that you just said does not have to do with the scenario that we just talked about.
It has to do with your definition of sex acts.
So the person...
Your definition of sex acts fundamentally fails. It includes people who wear crop tops. It includes people who wear high heels to make their ass look good. And it includes the man who looked at me, desiring me.
It seems to, though. I'm missing context. Has anybody been watching the debate fully? Like, it seems like...
Was he trying to?
No, he was deciding...
RGR seems to be grasping here.
He wanted to fuck.
Like,
I would say...
Here's an example. Like, what if
he desired me sexually.
If he was not doing something... Acting
he was desiring...
Okay, here's an example. Like, what if a trans chaser... got off to Riley Grace Rochon privately, in their head, whoever it is, while they were around other people, or around children if you want to make it extreme. Like, would that have violated the consent of the people around them? Like, I don't think... Consent has to do with what is yours, right? I don't think you have a right to... basically the sovereign decision over what exists in space metaphysically in your vicinity. You have a right to not be presented with unwanted, like, sexual material, say, but I don't think you have a right to not have that exist privately in the minds of other people. That seems like a very strange argument to me.
No,
your pretty wording around it, because they heard your message.
Unless I'm misreading, it's possible.
They heard it. They heard it loud and clear. They heard it every time you called all of those people. Yeah, no, they totally did, and they get it. They absolutely, they absolutely understood. Your audience picked it up. Did you not?
No, I'm gonna. All right, I'm gonna mute you. All right, because now I am incredibly concerned about TOS. All right.
Well, this is kind of rich.
Stop.
Does anybody remember when Demon Mama did this to RGR and she was crying afterwards?
Get back to having a productive conversation, right? So I did not call you a pedophile. I didn't. I said that you either intentionally made an argument that would lead to what pedophiles want, or you negligently did.
Oh, this is stupid.
That is what I argued. And that is what I maintain, especially based on your answers earlier.
Having sex with children. I never claimed that.
All right,
I'm not said that it is okay to do things in public that deal with sexual desire.
Do you understand what negligence means?
Yes, unintentionally.
Okay.
So what you're saying is I have a belief whether or not I know it, that I did it whether or not I meant to. You're saying that I said it's okay to have sex with children.
Stop.
Whether or not I know it. That's what you said.
That's not what I said.
You said that about me. You
Stop
know that, right?
No,
Those
stop.
Are the words that
You're
said
keep
about
putting
me.
words in my mouth. You can yell all you want.
Intentionally or negligently. Those are what those words mean.
No. Stop.
Anyone can see that that's what those words mean.
No, stop.
And your audience
hold on. I'm going to mute you again. I'm going to mute you again. All right? Yelling does not make you more right. All right?
Is there a way to talk to Doe? Like, she needs to leave this conversation.
Talk about negligence means that you do something or you say something and you are not aware of its implications at the time that you do it. But you still do cause harm. Alright? So I'm gonna unmute you. You're gonna stop saying that this is calling you a pedophile, because it is not. Alright.
I can't believe you muted me. That's incredibly embarrassing.
Because you were yelling. No, hold on. You were yelling and you were trying to put words in my mouth.
Wow.
All right? So I am justified.
RGR is kind of a cretin, isn't she?
Keep saying that I said a thing when I didn't. We looked at the clip. We looked at the clip.
You said
yes.
That I intentionally or negligently justified pedophilia. That means that either I meant to...
What? Doe doesn't need to leave the conversation. I just don't think this is good for her.
Or I unintentionally hold the belief or made an argument that made an argument that would allude to the belief.
Let's see. I'm not subscribed to Doe. Let me see if I can't find it.
Now, hold on. Stop. All right? It's not just.
How do I get out of this?
There is a possibility, because I can't read your mind. I don't know what's in your head. But the total scope of possibilities means that either.
Je jure de ne jamais dire de mots qui ne soient vrais.
Oh, that's not it. Hang on. Oh, damn it. I gotta find it now. I guess she's on Twitter. Or it's on Twitter. Whatever they go by. I don't like the it thing. Pronouns that dehumanize people, I'm not super on board with. But I will play ball for the sake of civility. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, I think I found it. Alright. No idea what to expect here in terms of the format. But upset. She seemed upset from RGR's side.
Just now, you've agreed multiple times, actually, that you are fine with certain situations where someone engages in a sexual act, gets off publicly around children. You are fine.
You keep saying.
You are no, stop. You agree that there are situations where you are fine with that happening.
I'm fine with Gia to me. Look at your chat. Look at them all doing it.
Which is what we are talking about. Right? Stop poisoning the well. Keep on the discussion that you agreed to have.
Oh, are we good now? Oh, we're connected again. What the hell? I don't know if it's OBS or if it's YouTube, but this happens so often. I'm actually really pissed off about it. RGR is not smart. This is... We're back? Good. Sound is low. Oh god, the sound... The sound reset. Of course it did. How's this? Better?
Alright.
How am I supposed to know? You're gonna just move on? You're gonna say that and you're just gonna move on?
No. I'm responding to what you said.
Yeah, you said something that was a lie, and then you're not gonna acknowledge that it wasn't true, and now you're just trying to move on. I can't see when you...
I've increased the volume. The sound should be better now.
To respond to an incredibly inflammatory
I'm asking you to respond to my personal experience because it is the ultimate counter to your poor definition.
No, it's not the ultimate counter. I'm about to explain why. Also, can you please give a trigger warning? People in my chat are asking that you give a trigger warning before you talk about...
No, I don't think so. You didn't give me a trigger warning when you called me a pedophile.
I didn't call you a pedophile.
You did.
No, I didn't. We already went over it.
Yeah.
She strongly insinuated it.
No.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I reject that. Do you have any other... Alright, hold on. You said multiple times. Is there any other time aside from this? Because here, I would reject that I ever called you a pedophile. I reject that, 100%. You said I called you a pedophile multiple times. Are there any other times where that possibly happened?
You deleted all your tweets, don't you remember?
I never tweeted calling you a pedophile.
Okay.
So you're just calling me a liar then?
No, I said at the very beginning of this debate that neither of us can prove that claim because you hid all the evidence. So it's
I
impossible
didn't hide
for
all the
anyone to
evidence. I
claim
deleted it because
anything.
you and your community were harassing me.
Sure. We were talking about things that you said publicly as a public figure. That is.
I never. Do you have any screen? All right. Do you have any screen cap? If I deleted a tweet, then I could have had it.
Your girlfriend
any screen cap
tweeted,
evidence?
and it seemed to be in line with things that you believed, because
Do
it
you have
made the
any
exact
screen
same
cap
argument as
evidence?
you about how desiring a foot fetish, desiring feet with a foot fetish is itself a sex act, and then she cited some like legal stuff, and then she got put on bad legal takes. Oh man, that was so funny.
Evidence. You don't have any actual evidence
You're
of me
right.
calling you a pedophile once.
You did it multiple times, but
No, I didn't.
There's a
I didn't.
VOD,
You
no,
never
so we
have
should be able to
lied.
see this after.
Okay. I can't. Like I already said, I can't prove that you tweeted those things. It's fine. We can move on from it. I know
No,
that
no,
you did
you
it.
lied
You
then.
deleted your
You
tweet.
specifically lied then. Why are you trying to prove something that you don't even know is true?
Well, I know that it happened because it happened to me. And beyond
Wait,
that,
so
I don't need
here's
those tweets here because your video.
All right,
is
wait.
enough.
How is that any difference? Hold on. We need to go through that claim because there's.
Why is RGR the way
there's
she
a
is?
massive issue there. So you're saying that you're saying it's true that I called you a pedophile multiple times because it happened to you. That is your evidence, right?
No, I'm telling you that I can't provide evidence. I said that at the
No,
very
you're
beginning
saying-
of the discussion, and I can't do it
You are
now.
saying
I'm
that
gonna
you are
multitask.
saying that
This
it's
is
true that I called you
painful.
a pedophile multiple times because it happened to you and you know it to be true.
Well,
That's what
it
you're providing
happened
as
to me.
evidence.
No, I know it happened. It happened to me.
I know it
can't
didn't
prove
happen.
it. There's no
I know it
evidence
didn't happen.
because you deleted all of it.
I
and
know
that's
it
okay.
didn't happen.
Okay, and like I said, neither of us can move forward on that. I've said that more than once. It's fine.
So you did lie about me.
I didn't lie. The same way
Do you
that
have
I-
any proof that you were telling the truth?
Yes, the video is the proof.
No, it's not.
If you say that someone is intentionally or unintentionally defending pedophilia, what you're saying.
No, not all law students are like this.
You don't. You
I've-
have not
You
intentionally
said-
defended pedophilia.
I know that it's not all intentional.
I know law students personally. Very sharp, sober people. RGR is playing a bit, and she's just bad at it.
If I say,
Why did the audio go back down?
you're not responding to me. If
I am responding to you. I'm saying
my God.
intentionally or unintentionally. One of them is that I knowingly
This thing is
am
atrocious.
justifying having sex with children, and the other one
and
is
the other one,
is saying that I don't know that I'm saying that it's okay to have sex with children. Neither
Yeah,
of those are what I've
that-
done. I
yeah.
think that it's
what
okay
about
to
that second one there?
yes,
Where you don't
think that I am
make that meaning.
you think that I unknowingly support sex with children, even though I
Yes,
have
I
more
think-
than once said that sex with children is wrong.
I think that you said that in this clip. I think that is the plain reading of this. I was specifically talking about what you said here.
You were talking about the foot fetish example.
Yes, where
Yeah.
you ended up conceding that you are fine with scenarios where someone gets off sexually to a foot fetish
I never
around
said gets
children.
off. I've said gets off in this conversation, but I didn't say it in that initial one. But even if I did say get
Wait,
off,
hold on. That you are saying that you are saying that according to this clip and the beliefs that you elicited in this clip, that you are fine with scenarios where people get off to their foot fetish sexually in public around children.
in the clip, I said that it was okay to present your desires in public, to do things
You-
in public that elicit sexual desire. In this
No, no, no,
conversation,
stop.
I've
You
maintained
said-
that I don't think it breaks consent to.
This is
to
really stupid,
orgasm
guys.
In public, as long as you don't involve the children around.
Okay, and now, because we've gotten to this point several times, we keep
This
trying
is
to pivot away.
really
I want
stupid.
to explain why that is wrong. All right, we keep pivoting away. I want to explain why doing a sex act around children, even if you do not involve them, is still harmful.
When a kid walks in on their parents, did their parents involve them in a sex act?
Stop. No. What?
Why
No.
not? These kids
Stop.
saw them having sex.
Because you're not. No, because you're engaged. Because they were acting in private. They took reasonable steps to act in private. And stop.
Oh.
I'm going to. All right. I'm going to mute you for a second. I'm going to explain
Why?
why it is bad.
She wasn't interrupting you. Why are you muting her? Or it?
I've deadened myself and.
Is it like?
on her end.
Is it wrong for me to
Yes.
not call Doe it? That doesn't come
She's
naturally to me. Like it
muting
creeps me out.
I have no obligation to continue to sit there and listen to her. I think that's more than fair. She's muted me multiple times. This is the only time I've done it. I can't hear anything she's saying. I think she did. Yeah, so. I think this is more than fair. I'll see how long it takes her to notice or care.
That's funny. Oh my god. Like,
What are you guys doing? I haven't read any of the chat. How are you guys doing?
okay, I'm gonna mute this for a second. I'm just gonna comment on this quickly. Here, we'll bring that up, and I'll just so I can still keep track of what's happening. Mute it here. I don't know how this debate started, but this is preposterous. As far as I can ascertain, the debate was, or when I jumped in, listening to it, the debate centered around whether it was violating the consent of children for somebody to quote-unquote get off, I don't know what that means in this context, but to get off at a foot fetish while in the proximity of children. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean, like, they're masturbating in public, or does it mean that they just had, like, unwholesome thoughts about feet privately in their skulls? Because that's not a sex act. That's private. Like, oh, this is... Oh, does Doe go by she, her pronouns? I thought there was a big thing about Doe using it pronouns. This is nice lighting? This is no lighting. Let's see what's happening here.
No, you are, and then you mute me. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's absolutely what you've done. Keep saying I'm poisoning the well by talking about my own personal, literal experience that actually has to do with actual pedophilia. That's apparently not actually like important to you as someone who's like really worried about CSA victims, right? Oh man.
All right, no. Clearly, when you say that, all right, you know you are poisoning the well.
It's not poisoning the well.
I agree that what happened to you was horrible. I am sorry that it happened. You know you are poisoning the well.
It's not poisoning the well. It's talking about my personal experiences. Poisoning the well would be like, Riley is such a dumb Christian, she'll never be able to understand what I'm saying. Like, no, I'm not poisoning the well. I'm talking about an experience because I don't feel like you're adequately able to engage with the actual experiences of people who have gone through really horrible things.
The problems, and I'm telling you exactly the problems. And I also was going to explain, all right, so hold on. So if we want to go back to exactly the reason why that person in the scenario was not engaging in a sex act, I would say that it was not because they were primarily trying to pursue a sexual desire or interest at that time. That would be
look at that person in your chat. The answer is yes, that Doe's a pedo if it thinks it's okay to orgasm in the presence of children. You know that was actually like the norm, that like people would fuck in like
now,
common
hold on.
rooms?
Don't try to impugn. No,
it actually used to be the norm. I'm not impugning it. I'm just telling you, I just want you to hear like what your audience says. I'm reading it all. I know what your audience says. I just wish you would read what your audience says.
Actually engage with what I'm saying because I'm responding to you. I would say that the person in your scenario, for as inflammatory as you make it out to be, I would say that the distinguishing factor there is that they were not primarily engaged in the
I was sold to other people, and you're calling me inflammatory?
Yes. I mean, right now, hold on. You keep saying that. You keep repeating this. You keep repeating the fact that you are
Doe literally said it's fine to jerk in front of kids. That's not what I said. Hey, Chatter, Todsworth. That's not what I said. Sorry, I just wanted to let that know. That's not what I said. Yeah.
Hold on. So to be clear, the example that you gave, I would distinguish and say that the reason why that does not apply is because that person, we can reasonably surmise, was not primarily engaging in a sexual act at that time.
They were looking at me to buy me.
And all right, and you are, and I know that you are trying to just be as overly inflammatory as possible.
This is not inflammatory.
And I would say that in that situation, the thing they were primarily focusing on was the buying. That's what my answer would be. And I know that you're just going to respond with, "Oh my God, Riley, you're so terrible."
I left.
Oh, she dropped the call? Oh, she dropped the call. Okay, well, let's go find the other call then quickly. Because I don't really care about...
The guy who wanted to buy my holes.
Alright, don't want to hear any more of that. Sounds terrible. Deepest sympathies, don't want to hear any more. Oh, wait for the ad to pass by. Oh my god, it's 15 seconds long. I freaking hate Twitch. I don't know YouTube TOS. Doe said some. I'm not going to list this afterwards. Somebody in my Discord wanted me to watch this because apparently there was some butchery of content here somewhere. Oh, here we go.
Because I would say, in the situation that Doe described, that person was not primarily engaging in a sexual act. Yeah, she was trying to try. Well, hold on. They. Stop. Do not misgender. They. Everyone thinks that Riley... No, I'm still...
Okay, Doe goes by they. Okay, I can work with they. Just it like creeps me out. I don't call human beings it.
No, Doe left. Alright? I did not leave.
Google, you are not a person. You are not entitled to pronouns.
Alright? They all think you... Well then, I don't know what to say. If Doe is saying that I left the call... Doe okay. So in that scenario, I think it's pretty clear that Doe is trying to use their personal experience as a victim to try and like strong arm me into saying a certain thing.
She's a really reasonable person. I wish that she would have like a ESO or
On her stream, she is crying on camera. So, all right, yeah. So this is chat. I want you to be clear here. This. Oh yeah. Here. Hey, what's up? I'm wrong. She was laughing. Oh well. Okay then. No, the issue there. Just 1 second, Pixie. The issue there is that so if we want to engage in exactly the hypothetical, because I was engaging with it, I would say that the person from the scenario that they described was not primarily engaging in a sexual act. That would be my answer. All right? Doe isn't crying? All right.
No, it's pronouns.
That would be my answer. That person that Doe described.
That's a whole other debate I don't want to get into.
In a sexual act. I think that it's reasonably apparent to anyone. I think it's apparent to any reasonable person who is watching. Okay? I was trying, to the best of my ability, to not engage in bad faith and to actually get Doe to follow the line of logic.
She's a really reasonable person. I wish that she would have like a ESO or
So, in this situation, Doe said that I had accused them of being a pedophile multiple times, and the proof that they provided was, oh, well, you may have tweeted about it, but I don't have any proof, and the clip. All right? And the clip that we saw was saying that Doe either intentionally or negligently made an argument justifying doing sex acts around kids, which, by the way, turned out to be true. That was absolutely true.
I'm just scrolling through the chat here. I don't think RGR, her own audience, is even on her side in this.
Getting off to their foot fetishes in public and around kids.
Yeah, this is stupid. If they're like, if they're whipping out their genitals in public and masturbating, that's one thing. But we're talking about some private emotional experience at this point. That's not violating any sort of. That's not violating anyone else's rights. I'm sorry. This is
enabling that.
This is incoherent.
And I can explain it with this context, but first I can use a very not loaded other example. You see this a lot in politics and stuff, but I'll use an even more tame one. It's not offensive. Where the examples I use was just literally something completely abstracted, like apples. If I talk about the health benefits of eating apples, that does not necessarily mean that I want to eat apples, but I am providing a justification for people who do want to eat apples, and I should be reasonably aware of the application of my arguments. So in the same way...
No, you can't rewind live Twitch feeds.
Situations where it's okay to...
I do expect there will be a VOD from Doe, though, somewhere. I'll see if I can find that. Not gonna stream it, but just so...
That's not to say that...
We know how this shit show started.
...reasonably, wants to have sex in front of children, and I don't think that's the case. That's why I called out initially, because I thought it was, a really horrible argument, and I reported some very dangerous accounts that did seem to really want to use them as a useful idiot. I thought it was like, not okay, and this is the point where like we need to kind of walk back this discourse where it's enabling some like bad people to start exploiting arguments for very malicious gain. It's just that like when you're saying that's like morally like that's ethical, that's acceptable, even if you don't want to do it, you're creating situations where hypothetically someone who does want to get off to kids like or wants kids to watch them or wants to be in situations like that specifically because of a pedophilic desire, they can, and they will cite that argument and that, oh, this is more morally permissible as justification for that position. And I reported and got taken down a few accounts that were absolutely doing just that. That's why I initially angry tweeted, and then when yeah.
No, like this is a really, really big issue with a lot of people who take these kinds of positions, because when you take these kind of positions, then you end up justifying incredibly awful behavior, like what Pixar was just talking about.
No, you can't load RGR's video and go
So
back
Doe
while it's still
here,
a stream.
To be clear,
You can only do that when it's
I do not
posted after
know
it's been live.
if they are a pedophile, and I have never said that they are a pedophile.
Because it processes afterwards.
And when I brought Doe on to actually provide evidence that I called them a pedophile, they provided a clip where I specifically said either they were intentionally, either they do know what they're doing, or they don't know and they're being used as a useful idiot. And this is the respect where I think that they are being used as a useful idiot. Because even if they are not a pedophile, they are engaging in spreading beliefs that justify pedophilic behavior. That is the argument. And I think that based on the conversation, if you eventually come to the conclusion that, yeah, there are some instances where you can be able to do sex in front of children and get off, and that is fine, then that pretty clearly justifies pedophilic perspectives.
I think it's probably true, but I don't think that's what
The other
RGR's
thing
interlocutor is
also
doing.
that, children are not
I'm missing
regularly
context, though. I don't know.
affected, so
Like, it's
people
possible it
understand
was, like, just the most egregious thing in the world right until I
what
got in. But
sex entails and the ramifications of it might be. That's why, there's age of consent laws. And it's also why we have, like, sexual education to know that. Because if you're just excusing, like, yeah, kids can see, like, IRL sex right in front of them, that can happen, it's normalizing an idea that opens kids to exploitation for people when you use them. And that's why it's like it's supposed to be an issue where we instead advocate for strengthened and increased and improved sexual education, which is an absent nightmare in this country.
Another really good example, we didn't end up getting into this, but I would be curious what Doe would say about this, is about situations where you have people who end up getting date raped and they never find out about it after, right? Because there you have a situation where you have someone who is used pretty explicitly for sex, but maybe it's the case that they never actually end up finding out afterwards. Now, Doe might focus on like the physicality aspect there, but I would say that in this case, just like with the using someone else to masturbate or using the kids in public, that usually there's a focus on whether or not the other person knows. That was pretty reasonably demonstrable with the masturbating to a person who you take a photo of from work, right? Step one, define sex acts and saying, hey, listen, you want to come on? If you think I'm wrong, you can come on and prove me wrong. That's all I'll say about that. But, oh God. Yeah, like if you have situations where you are able to use someone else for sex and they never find out, then the only way through there, the only way to be able to define that as still harmful is to focus on the violation of consent.
Is she equivocating between...
That is the issue.
Hang on. Is she equivocating between somebody getting off mentally in the presence of other people who are unwitting about that and date rape? Am I mishearing this? Because that's insane.
Because it makes them feel good in a non-sexual way, right? If you want to, like, feel confident with how you dress, if you, like, we need to take a step back and evaluate this, because I know that there are other people who made the same kind of arguments earlier. If you go to the beach and you wear a bikini, we can imagine reasons aside from just like, does this make me feel good sexually, that someone would want to wear a bikini. I like wearing a bikini because it makes me feel confident. I don't wear it because I'm trying to appeal to my or someone else's like sexual desire. Okay? Like, I need nuance here. Is someone wearing a choker sexual? It depends what your primary intention is. And the way that you determine primary intention, because it is inductive, is because you go on the totality of circumstances.
This is really stupid, guys.
So, this is a big distinction.
Hey, here's
There's a difference
here's an
between
idea.
Ontologically,
Oh
what
god,
is a
here we go.
sex act? Epistemically, how do you know if someone is engaging in a sex act? And then the ethical question, what do we do about people who are engaging in sex acts? If we begin with doing a sex act, if we begin with the idea that engaging in a sex act is where you are doing something primarily with the intention of appealing to a sexual desire or interest, all right?
No. Okay.
Epistemic question.
Massively impoverished. Okay, so this is flawed right at the gate because she doesn't have a coherent conception of what action is. Thoughts are not actions. Thoughts can be events depending on your theory of mind, but thoughts are not actions. Actions are things that you bring about in the world, and they have a public existence. So if something is taking place purely inside someone's head, that's not an act.
Specifically for sexual purposes, right? It is specifically designed in order to be used in a sexual manner. So there, we would probably say, yeah, that probably is going to be a sex act, and we probably should have laws which regulate the use of those kinds of things.
What?
What about fursuits? Or sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and if someone's getting off to something that's like not reasonably typically like a sexual thing, like if just eating a banana is perfectly fine, but like specifically if you're in the grocery store eating a banana and like moaning and stuff, then we're not going to ban bananas. We're just like, okay, because you're doing this thing, it's unreasonable to ban bananas. We're just going to say like, don't do that here, stop.
Why are we drawing the line here? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
All right. Also, by the way, hold on. By the way, the entire conversation does not actually have to do with the question of kink. By the way, I just want to make that very clear, because usually the conversation about how kink is involved in this, usually the question has to do with, is kink inherently sexual?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, these are sexual kinks. That's what that refers to.
Just talking about the ethics of what is a sex act. All right? This conversation did not actually have to do with...
What the hell would a non-sexual kink even be? Like, I prefer my pizza cold, that's my kink. Like, what does that mean? Why are we regulating... Well, we have to regulate sex acts, Mohammed. Like, there are sex acts that are actually unethical and destructive. Like, if what they were discussing was, like, actual sex acts involving children, there'd be an issue here. The problem is what they're describing aren't acts, they're thoughts.
Focus on is intent. Alright?
So this is important. It's not important. Why does it have to be important? This is YouTube. Come on, I gave you like hours of political theory streaming the last couple of days. Give me a break.
I mean, there's going to be other kinds of harm, but I think that both of them have their consent violated and have been harmed in that way. But I think that like there's other kinds of harm in addition to the consent with the physical date rape, right? There's other degrees of violation, right? There's also probably like a violation of bodily autonomy.
Okay, I'm not harmed if somebody gets off to a banana in my proximity and I'm not aware of it. Like, this is preposterous. Now, if somebody announces it to me, that might be a different thing.
Literal, they are vanilla and cishet normative in a way that is problematic as well. I mean, the clearest example is like the strict definitions of rape. But then there's also situations in which we have to distinguish intentional sexuality from body parts, right? So like, if someone like rips a woman's clothes off in public, we should not, like, that woman should not be in trouble for like being sexual, right? Because she didn't do anything, even those body parts are good. Or like, if a woman is breastfeeding in public as well.
I can't rewind to the.
Like,
I can't rewind
yeah,
to the can't part. This is
like,
Twitch.
Breasts especially, those are considered sexual. But if a woman is breastfeeding in public, we say that's fine because it's not sexual, and it's not child abuse, which some conservatives say, because it's not sexual, and that's the distinction to draw, right? And it's also like not asking for it kind of stuff, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
And that's a very important line to draw, so we have language to excuse those situations because of that missing factor of sexual intent, and that's what makes it okay.
I apologize, I'm looking at chat. 1,000 viewer drama stream. What's up, chat? Yeah, but yeah, like we would say that like someone who's breastfeeding is not just like we would say that's not a sexual act, right?
I would not be excited about having 1,000 viewers if I was putting on this display.
Chat, give me some questions. Otherwise, I'm going to bring someone else in. Otherwise, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to cover.
Nah,
eventually, I
not
will
really.
do a video on
Screw this. This person is so freaking boring. You know what's not boring? Modern Day Debate had a debate on is Islam harmful? And it's going to be a disaster. So let's take a look. Why can't I... Oh, now it's being stupid. There we go. That's better. But that's too big. Why is it so big? No, I don't know what I'm moving there. Come on. There we go. Alright. Who even is this? Oh, and why is it... on earth? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hang on. I made a mistake. I need to make that separate. Then make that full screen. And then select... Why is that showing that? Damn it. Okay, so what if I close that? Then go... There, that works. Coolio. Alright. Then I'll just separate that out. What are you seeing now? Good, so I think that works. Then I can just go back to the thing where OBS is the worst. It really is just the absolute worst. I'm just trying to not accidentally post the stream key, because that would be potentially hilarious, but, you know, annoying. Alright, here we go. Let's start this. Let's start this absolute monstrosity. God, they have the worst music. Oh, where are we slowing down? Don't slow down on me. Come on. Come on.
Or not. When I first looked at the title, I thought to myself...
No, let's go back a little bit. Here we go.
Prophet, the floor is all yours.
Okay, so I know the Perfect Dawa from Digital Gnosis channel. No idea who this guy is.
Hello everybody and welcome. Thank you so much, James, and thank you so much, Muji, for arranging and agreeing to this debate. Today we want to discuss whether Islam is harmful. The original idea of this debate was... I forgot to turn my timer on again. Give me a second. Was whether extremists represent Islam or not. When I first looked at the title, I thought to myself, what exactly is extremist? We first have to define what extremist means. According to J.M. Berger, who is a social scientist, extremism is hard to define. It's not easy to see, but it usually describes a group of people that has a counter. An extreme position that is counter to the position that is held within the society, and that tends to radically shift the ways of society, mostly in violent ways or in very totalitarian ways, toward a different worldview. According to Lynn Davies, extremism means having no tolerance and imposing your own beliefs upon the society in order to change it, mostly through radical means, meaning violent or, again, suppressing other people.
That's a stupid definition of of extremism. Just whatever is not conservative of a liberal order. It's just dumb.
In the West, we have this notion that there are moderate Muslims and there are extremist Muslims. This is not really a notion that is the same between the West and the Islamic societies. When we talk about moderate Muslims in the West, we are talking about Muslims who don't resort to violence and don't resort to means of overthrowing the society and imposing their own beliefs. The issue is something like moderate and extreme also exists within Islam, but it doesn't really exactly mean the same thing. There is a concept called wasatiyya, which is the middle path, which is also mentioned in the Quran. And in Islamic tradition...
Look, there are a lot of Muslims and a lot of Islamic communities, quote-unquote, again, however you want to define that, that engage in activities that are noxious to my beliefs, yada, yada, yada. This is a stupid argument. This is a really stupid argument. It basically just treats a community a liberal would find themselves comfortable with, again, ignoring the fact that it is facilitated and scaffolded by institutions that were only possible because of colonial domination. It treats that as the default and as if the frictions and the exploitations that it requires to function are not violent, while treating a vast array of different things as simply representative of an endemic violence that is non-kosher. It's so underdetermined and ill-defined. I just hate this line of argumentation. I'm hoping, I don't know anything about the perfect Dawa, but I'm hoping he has a competent rebuttal to this.
Tradition, it means that the middle path, the moderates, are those who follow exactly the way of Islam, whereas extremists are on both sides, those who try to get rid of the laws of Islam and who try to secularize and make society free. And then there are those extremists who relentlessly kill and murder and destroy society, including fellow Muslims. And what's funny about this is that Muji here, my opponent, would say that certain people like Islamic extremists are extremists from his point of view. But people who have watched debates on this channel will remember that several weeks back, Daniel Haqiqatjou, for example, who is a Muslim extremist, also described human rights activists as extremists. So from his point of view, human rights activists are extremists. If you ask ISIS, and I'm not exaggerating, ISIS and Al-Qaeda and other organizations like that will also say that they themselves are not extremists, they are moderate, they are the middle path, whereas those...
Okay, but these people are using extremist in a meaningless way where it just means, you know, we're normal. It just means normal, but the norm can be extreme. The normal is not the opposite of the extreme. The normal just means the established and the regular. But it can still be extreme. You can have a normalized extreme condition. You can have a prolonged state of emergency, for example. Like, these words don't mean anything as they're being used here.
Who come with a lighter interpretation of Islam are extremists, and those demons who do not exist are extremists. So we have to really get to what extremism is. When it comes to being harmful, humans have the desire to flourish and to be happy. It is the Aristotelian belief that, or idea, that humans seek flourishing, humans seek ultimate happiness. I think it is fairly understandable that humans have this intrinsic desire to live and to flourish and to survive. And there are certain ideas that do not really serve that purpose. When it comes to Islam now, we have...
I think human beings in Aristotle pursue some good. I don't think they pursue ultimate flourishing. That's a philosophical concept that he has to bring out.
The fact that Islam is very much anti-intellectual. In Quran verse 7, chapter 174, it says that Allah made people for hell who don't believe and who don't think. In 24 verse 51, it tells people to obey Allah and His Messenger mindlessly. In chapter 33 verse 36, it tells you that you should obey Muhammad and Allah no matter what they say, very much.
In Plato's Republic and Aristotle, they talk about manipulating the poetics of the people in order to produce good citizens. Like, there's a reason why you have a lot of political theorists, especially Enlightenment political theorists, referring back to the Quran as an example of the rudiments of a political constitution. This is not unique to Islam at all. If we're speaking like from an external perspective.
Islam is intolerance. When we look at Quran chapter 9, verse 29, we find the command to fight those who don't believe in Islam and who don't believe in Allah and the last day, who don't follow the Islamic laws, and to fight them until they are subdued and they pay protection money in exchange for their lives. We have this further defined in chapter 9, verse 30. This is used against Christians and Jews because of their beliefs. In chapter 9, verse 28, it is said that polytheists should be kept out of holy lands because they are filthy. In chapter 9, verse 23, it says that you should not take your fathers and your family as
This is so fucking lazy. In Aristotle, who he just cited, he argues that it's distinctly possible that there are some people who are naturally suited to slavery. Like, is Aristotle harmful now? I mean, maybe. But, like, what is the argument here? Look, there's a bunch of nasty lines in the Quran. Oh no. Like, the text is just ink on a page. How it's read, what is treated as being applicable to what, that's going to depend on so many other factors, not just what apostate prophet reads into it, because, I don't know. This is not how you do anthropology or political theory, people.
Friends, if they prefer disbelief over belief. And therefore, in Islamic law, and we can find this in the classical books of Islamic law.
Exactly, Pippa. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Now, that being said,
most people will not.
That being said, I highly doubt that he would be pro the Old Testament either. So
Islamic law, Reliance of the Traveler, which you can find in English, and many of these classical Islamic books will define and tell you that it is a Muslim's duty. It is the duty of the Muslim community to keep the Muslims high and to suppress the disbelievers and to have them humiliated, even if they are part of your society, because that is what how you are supposed to treat them according to the Islamic texts. Islam is very much focused on war. In an agreed upon narration from Muhammad found in Riyadh al-Salihin, it says that
Islam is very focused on... Okay, so here's one aspect of this that I really dislike. What are we talking about when we say Islam? And it's not even just a question of partitioning, different creeds about what Islam means between different groups. Islam itself as a concept isn't actually something that we can interrogate positively as a thing that exists in the world from the outside. Why? Because Islam is not a totemic principle, right? Perversely, the medieval idea of Mohammedism, like treating what we call Islam now as like the cult of Muhammad, that at the very least has a sociological basis. It's the orientation around the prophets. You can actually talk about groups of people that way. There's a concrete basis of that in the world. Islam, as a concept, refers to that which accords with God's will. So we often translate it as submission to God, right? Now, that is something very broad. This is engaging in Islam when it accords with God's will and obeys the law of gravity or something like that. Like fish, when they act as fish are supposed to do, are good Muslims. There's actually a line in a book somewhere that says something to that effect. I can't remember what it was, though. If we want to go Aristotelian, something fulfilling its telos is engaging in, is being a Muslim insofar as it is doing so. If you don't accept the metaphysical premise that there is a God and an order of that God or emanating from that God or something to which things in the world can submit or can accord with, then it makes no sense to talk about Islam as if it's a thing that exists. What they mean by Islam, of course, are people who call themselves Muslims, but who the hell are they? That's so many different people. For God's sake, like there must be other people who have this reading same as I do, who then apply that term to themselves because they think they're according with some divine or metaphysical order or something. Does that make sense? Like, you can't just jump to talking about Islam is focused on war. It's like, well, no. Islam to an atheist really shouldn't exist, or Islam to a critic of Muslims or of the Quran shouldn't exist. Now, whether different communities of self-avowed or self-described Muslims are focused on war, well, that's an anthropological statement. Who are you talking about? You need to tell me who you're talking about. Don't show me a text. Show me who you are talking about. Show me the specifically warlike communities or the war-oriented communities that you have in mind. Otherwise, don't mention this. You have no basis for saying it.
One of the major sins is to flee the battlefields. I mean, you are supposed to not only join every war for Islam, fleeing the battlefield also does not just mean it is sinful, it means you will go to hell for that, definitely. Because how dare you flee the battlefield? You're supposed to fight for Allah. In Sahih Bukhari 2926, there is the major notorious prophecy that in the future you will fight and kill the Jews, and they will be behind stones and trees.
There are so many Enlightenment texts that talk about the positive value of being a warlike nation, like Enlightenment European texts. We don't just say that this is representative of the attitude of Europeans simpliciter. Like, it's just Europeans are just warlike because, look, Aquinas gave conditions for war. War is hacking people to bits. Like, that's not a nice thing just because you have, like, conditions for just war. This guy's just dumb.
And even the stones and trees will tell you to come and fight and kill the Jews. According to Sahih Muslim 22, a very famous hadith which is undeniable. Muhammad himself said that he has been sent to fight the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger, which is why fighting for Islam has been seen as a duty of the Muslim community forever, including in the famous book Muqaddimah of the
Ibn Khaldun
of sociology, Ibn Khaldun.
No, not sociology. He was a historian. He wasn't a frickin' sociologist.
Distinct is that it has that it gives the leader of the Islamic nation, of the Islamic community, the duty to lead the Muslims to uphold Islam and to spread Islam by preaching or by force. Islam has apostasy laws, meaning someone who leaves Islam like myself cannot even think of being happy, cannot even avoid harm, because leaving Islam means I should be executed, according to Muhammad in reports such as Sahih Bukhari.
Okay, but what does leaving Islam mean? Like, that's going to vary radically. Like, for example, being unrepentant in Christianity and many different forms of Christianity or Christian belief has the result in their doctrine of you meriting death, or rather you already merit death and now you simply lack salvation for it. A lot of people interpret Quranic surahs concerning that in that way. Like, this is just so non-specific.
6,922. Islam is known for suppressing women. In chapter 4, verse 34 of the Quran, it tells us that men are in charge of women, that women are to obey their husbands, and that men have the right to admonish, to separate beds, and finally to hit their wives if they fear arrogance from their wives. It has been established in Islamic history due to Muhammad's words that virgins can be married off by their parents without their consent, while older women have to be asked for their consent. Women have no influence in society, which means women cannot even think of whether they can or cannot be happy. There is always...
Quick, everybody, Google when women's suffrage came in. Think of how long European communities, secular European communities, by the way, went on without women being able to vote or make basic decisions socially.
The harm against women who are half of the human population. So that
hell, even Steven Pinker, that blasted idiot, he had an image of an ad from not very long ago in historical terms, showing a husband beating his wife as a joke.
That much we have about harm and happiness. Islam is notorious for child marriage. Muhammad himself, according
moderator
to
should step in.
The
moderator's not going to step in because James is only interested in just profiting off of a shit show. I don't like modern debate. They're extraordinarily irresponsible platformers.
But imagine a child that is 6 years old. Imagine a girl that is 9 years old. Muhammad came together and had this marriage and united with a 9-year-old girl in bed when he was in his 50s and had sex with her. And this is normalized today. And
this must be the debate that Molyneux was originally going to do with Hawes that fell through. So Molyneux is debating Destiny this month. I guess I'll have to cover that one. Just for the views, if nothing else. This is a painfully boring debate, guys.
Ended by the traditional Orthodox Muslim apologists.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
And see.
Those who would like to know what we were talking about, my ideal world, you can watch there, or my channel as well. The copy is there also. The Perfect Dava. By the way, anybody who would like to talk to me from audience tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central European times.
Okay, get to the point, man.
They use religion to become richer and richer. And a lot of these extremist scholars, they just, preach such extreme ideas, or even they just follow them because they are afraid of their busyness. And you said a lot of things, my brother Redman, about killing apostate. In Islam, we cannot, in the Islam that I have learned, we cannot kill even a murderer, okay? Because everybody have the right to repent, everybody. And that right in Quran is, the time Quran mentioned that if you repent when you are dying, Allah will not accept it, or in the state of kufr. So this disbelief that I talked to you as well, that they translate kufr as disbelief, is absolutely wrong, because Quran chapter 16 verse 83 says they recognize the favor of Allah, then they deny it, and most of them are kafir. So the Quran is talking about disbelievers, but most...
Okay, this is the same essentialist nonsense that the other guy is doing. It's just in reverse. That's just damn disappointing. He's just citing the Quran now. Like, that doesn't tell you anything. Like, the meaning of the text is determined by the context, and the context is going to be its specific deployment by the people who are reading it. What's my take on the RGR debate? RGR was being a snake, and Doe was being really freaking creepy and just unnecessary. But RGR was being just... I was kind of embarrassed, honestly. Especially with, like, the muting. It was basically identical to when Demon Mama had that debate with RGR and was muting her. But RGR was actually yelling during that interaction and was actually escalating. Doe wasn't doing that. RGR is just power tripping with the mute button. It's really just embarrassing. And her arguments were preposterous. I mean, Doe wasn't doing herself any favors by making everything as explicit and uncomfortable as possible, but RGR's responses made no sense. It seemed like she wanted to argue that... I'm just going to close this thing off because we're not watching this debate. This is boring as all hell. It seemed like what RGR was arguing was that if you have, like, sexual thoughts in your head, in the proximity of other people, you are engaging in a sex act in proximity with other people. And the problem, of course, is that she has a completely impoverished understanding of what acts are. Acts are not thoughts. Acts are actual. They're in the world. They are things you bring forth materially. If somebody declared that they're getting off on something and they started like describing it and imposing on other people's experience without their consent descriptions of what they're getting off of and the fact of it, then you'd have a sex act. Then there's an act there taking place in the world. If the person's just thinking it, then that's private. That's not it's not that's not within the experience of other people. And I don't think human beings have a right to impose their own preferences on the thoughts of other people if they're respectfully keeping them to themselves. So, insofar as this seemed to have been linked to the kink at Pride thing, RGR at one point argued that, well, she wears a bikini because it makes her confident, even though some other person like might do so for like sexual reasons. But that's beside the point. Somebody else might get off to the bikini, of course. If they keep that privately in their head, is that a sex act? I don't think so. Is Riley Grace Rochon wearing the bikini for non-sexual reasons suddenly a sex act because somebody else gets off on it? I hardly think so. But that's what she wants to argue to Doe. I missed the earlier context, but that just seems ridiculous on its face. Both intuitively and when you bear it out, because now we can't distinguish between an action and a thought. Which, like, we have to be able to distinguish these things. They're not the same. We don't criminalize thoughts, we criminalize acts. We actually can't criminalize thoughts at all because they're not accessible to us unless somebody enacts them or locutes them in some way. Does that make sense? What if I feel comfortable not wearing a bra? Hey, I feel comfortable not wearing a bra. There you go. I can't help it if that's like setting you perverts off, but you know, it is what it is. She's a late stage debate, bro. I'm just not impressed by her. I just think she's just really hungry for clout at this point. And again, like, especially given how she was crying and making a big public fuss about Demon Mama's treatment of her, and I was sympathetic to that at the time. Her treatment of Doe this way is not okay. That's not cool. She retroactively earned that as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, this was impromptu. I'm not going to spend much longer streaming because my neck is freaking killing me. And this was just off the cuff. Let's just see quickly what's going on with RGR. Oh, am I going to sit through another ad? I don't want to sit through another ad. Oh, that's another ad. But it's a short ad.
That trans people are socialized in such a way that they are raised their entire lives to be treated or to act in like one particular way or another, and then just completely turn around and do the exact opposite of what they were and then turn around and do the exact opposite of what they were socialized to do. Like, it either means that we are the worst decision makers ever, or that there's some kind of other explanation for what's going on there. Now, TERFs have offered a lot of explanations. They argue that, like, trans men and AFAB non-binary people are trying to escape or otherwise benefit from the patriarchy. They argue that trans women, because they can't benefit from the patriarchy, are, like, you know, they go to the Blanchard typology. both of which I reject because I think we can look at those and say that they are like pretty easily recognizable as like bullshit, personally. But like, but then you still don't have an explanation for why trans people engage in the kind of behavior that they do, except unless you're able to establish some kind of other underlying matter of fact. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that also, if you say that gender is completely socially constructed, you don't have any argument to say that conversion therapy should not be allowed, right? To say that we should not prevent or illegalize.
Just by the way, Doe's pronouns are it's primarily. Okay, here's a thought. Pronouns should reflect, frankly, if you're going to impose them on other people, pronouns should reflect something something socially established. So, for example, Riley Grace Rochong is a trans woman, and it's appropriate to refer to her as she, her, if she requests, or they, them if she requests, especially if they're non-binary. It has a positive content that I'm not comfortable applying to a person. I will do so to Doe if it requires, but I'm doing something else mentally when I say that I'm not when I'm saying they, that I do not like. And I think Doe is aware of that, and I don't like what Doe is doing. So, like, I don't know. I'll have to think of that one a little bit more, but I don't put a lot of water into that particular usage of pronouns. Pronouns should not be doing violence to either the person using them or the person requesting they be used. Does that make sense? And referring to human beings as it is psychologically doing violence to people. I don't think that's a thing that should be normalized. I don't have a particular issue with Doe on this one, but I don't think that's a good... Yeah. It feels weird, but Doe requests it. I don't think merely requesting is the metric, though, right? Like, it's not just a matter of trans women requesting to be called she, her, or they, them, sometimes, that compels us to do so. I think this is what a lot of people misunderstand. It has to do with showing respect and acknowledging, or rather not doing the opposite of acknowledging what a person is socially. Doe is not it socially, right? It isn't a gender. So it gets messy. There's the first, like, here's a question. Like, suppose somebody requests to be called, like, a slur. You see the issue? Like, people use it as a slur to refer to trans people sometimes, for example. Like, is the bare fact... If somebody requested to be referred to by a racial slur, would you be required to abide by that? That's not clear to me. Does that make sense? So, like, in conversation with Doe, I would use whatever Doe requested, provided I didn't think it was, like, a joke. Like, if Doe was insisting on your majesty or something, I would not. But in context, if there's, like, a whole complex behind this that I'm not aware of, I would abide by, basic terms of civility. But as a general thing, it's there's some complexity there, and there are some issues there that aren't present in even a lot of non-standard pronouns. So, like, Doe is not a Doe, right? Doe is a human being, and calling human beings it is generally not okay. Now, we can sustain in a particular case the use of that for the sake of social fluidity with that person, but it's not clear to me that we are in a general sense in some way ethically obligated to abide by not just non-standard pronouns, but non-standard pronouns that are also offensive. Does that make sense? Sunday, I'm going to be honest, I could not possibly disagree with you more here. I get where you're coming from, but maybe it's because I'm trans, but it's definitely rubs me the wrong way. If you would care to elaborate, I'd be interested in discussing that further. But let me know. Like, I'm not making a hard stance on this. I'm thinking about this in real time. The issue I'm having here is, like, if like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. Who's a trans man streamer? I actually don't know any off the top of my head. Or maybe I do, and I just don't know. Ahab sees whale, there she blows. Yeah. But yeah, Wednesday, please elaborate on this. I am curious. There's low stakes here. I'm not publishing this stream, so. What about Jangles? Is Jangles in the chat? Never seen Jangles in the chat. I'm not trans, but using its does make me feel uncomfortable most of the time. Okay, so here's the thing, though. It's not a question of it making you uncomfortable, right? There are people who are uncomfortable using she, her to a trans woman, or he, him to a trans man. That, I don't think, removes the incumbency of using those. The issue I'm having is that its carries other content that is intrinsically offensive in most linguistic usage of the term. Like, when I use it, I feel like I am doing violence, not just to Doe, but to other people. And that now becomes an offense against myself as well. So, that's not the case when I'm using she, her to a trans woman, or he, him to a trans man, or they, them, or Zizher, or whatever you want. Right? I understand you're not thinking about this in a transphobic worldview, and I appreciate you actually explaining your thoughts, but basically, like, I believe the idea of its, and similar is to dehumanize a little bit. The point being to engage with gender in a way that is non-standard and breaks the mold. That becomes something new. Okay, well, that's a project, though, right? Now, we're not talking about, like, respecting someone's identity. Now we're talking about being involved in a social experiment or something. So I don't think... Maybe you want to clarify a little bit more, but it doesn't particularly matter if the point is to engage in gender in a way that is non-standard. If this is like a didactic thing, then I'm not necessarily against what Doe is doing, but I don't see how that obligates us, right? Like, the obligation to use someone's pronouns doesn't come from the fact that somebody arbitrarily gives you a list of names they want to be called. It comes from the social significance of those pronouns, and of the violence you are doing to the person if you don't use them because of that social significance. It seems like with its, the social significance runs entirely in the opposite direction. Oh, the VOD. Oh, I don't want to look at the VOD. Don't make me look at the VOD. Okay, I guess we're looking at the Riley Grace Rochong VOD. Is this, is this the RGR one? Or is this the, Imran, is this on RGR's channel, or is this on Doe's? What's being said here? What if someone wants to reclaim the anti-trans dehumanization done against them by choosing to use its? Some things maybe... I'm ambiguous about that. I would submit that there's a possibility, and I'm agnostic about this, but there's a possibility that some things should not be reclaimed. Maybe. It's the Doe channel one. If you can find me a link, that would be helpful, Imran, because I'm not subscribed to Doe. Yeah, Gordozan, you were banned because you were making a bunch of invidious statements against Roma people. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's not like you were being... you were allowed in a second time. we're pretty understanding usually, but when you're calling entire ethnic groups of people nasty or something, it's not really cool. You don't have to do this to VOD? Yeah, I do. I do. I'll be punished if I don't. Is it okay to be human? No. No, being human is a terrible thing. Your life's full of pain and misery and anxiety. You link to me on Discord? Okay, cool. We'll do that. Cool. Alright. Oh, this must be it. Okay. So let's go here.
Repeating this. You keep repeating the fact that you were.
All right, so we're gonna go way back, way back. Let me know how the audio is, guys. Let me just make sure in advance that it's still high up. Good. I need to get this as my intro screen.
The structure is such that everyone is trying to be categorized into it and yet fundamentally can't be. And I think where we should really go is away from all of those apparatuses, away from all of that imposition, so that it can be truly freed. That self-expression can be freed. That seems like the pretty obvious direction here.
Some people even chose to be trans.
Horrible.
I was actually pausing for effect to keep that in.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Pausing for effect.
Let's fast forward a bit.
Opinion. We are certainly more tolerant in regard to practices that break the law, but we continue to think that some of these are insulting to the truth. We may be prepared to admit that a passive man, a virile woman, people of the same sex who love one another, do not seriously impair the established order.
Referring back to the idea that political violence against groups makes her uncomfortable. As a tangent here, and not something leftist intelligentsia was posed to...
Do I know any songs from Inside? It was the first one I played. I was playing.
Okay, does anybody have a timestamp? What's the timestamp? When does this start? Imran, you're on the spot. Three hours and 50 minutes, okay. Would have taken me forever. Probably put the speed down a little bit. Okay. Oh.
All it's missing is Xander Hall. Then we'll have the complete set.
All right, come on, let's start.
Lanky gang. Hell yeah.
2 minutes in.
We started a brand new conversation. I was back so quickly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The reason I brought on Malcolm was because Malcolm had actually been here waiting since like the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, I saw they were here before me. It's all right. I was here so quick. I didn't think that you were gonna move on, but that's okay. Did you have a good conversation? We didn't listen to it. I have no idea what you guys talked about. Your chat seems to say it's about Calvin Barra, but I don't know anything.
It was in part about that. It was interesting.
Okay.
So I'm assuming. Do you mind if I read out the initial tweet that you sent at me to come on here?
I mean, you want to read through the whole thing? I think that would be a little more enlightening than just the first tweet.
I'll read.
We can show it all together if you really want.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like the initial ones. Like, hey, Riley Grace Rochon, I'd love to debate. You blocked me and deleted all your videos, tweets after you called me a pedophile repeatedly. Zero evidence, aside from me saying not wearing shoes in public is not, quote, involving children in a sex act. First come, first serve, right? Yeah, so I apologize. Malcolm was here, yeah. I just think the topic was Riley lying and trying to cover her tracks by repeatedly calling the CSA victim a pedophile for not thinking that not wearing shoes is actually okay to do in public is a really good topic. Feel free to let me know.
Hang on, what is this? I just think the topic was Riley lying and trying to cover her tracks by repeatedly calling the CSA victim a pedophile for thinking that not wearing shoes is actually okay to do in public.
You added an extra not in there, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. Where did I add?
You said not thinking. It's all right. It's not a big deal.
Okay. and then I unblocked you. And yeah, so I guess I want to begin. Mind if I ask like a couple?
Whoa,
questions?
can we go a little bit further?
Oh wait, which one?
Oh, I just think that you're leaving off a lot of really important information. Is it okay if we read a little bit more?
Well, in this tweet it was just the 2 pictures.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that tweet is just those 2 pictures, but that wasn't the end of our interaction, right?
There were a lot of other interactions. I asked you if you wanted to talk about gender.
You did ask. You actually said, "Feel free to talk about gender here." When I asked to come on and talk about this other topic.
Yeah, I was interested in talking about multiple topics.
Yeah.
I thought that would be cool because I know that you've talked about gender before, and I am also someone who talks about gender a lot. So I was super hecking interested in talking to you, but like, I know that you very strongly do not want to talk about gender with me, and I don't know why, but yeah, you don't have to. I'm not going to force you to. So do you mind if I ask you, like, just in here, you said that I repeatedly called you a pedophile. So first, can I get like just like all of the places? Like, can you just tell me? You can tell me if I
Well, how about I ask you a question around?
Okay, guys, just because I see people talking about this in the chat, just general rule of thumb, if somebody gives you pronouns for them, and they seem a bit odd, but they're otherwise inoffensive, just use them. The cost to you is low. It might actually affect them if you don't. Just use them. Debate about it elsewhere. My misgivings about the one we were just talking about notwithstanding. And yeah, no worries, Wednesday. You're not smart at all. So, made some interesting points.
On the time this summer of the Kink at Pride conversation, did you private your Twitter and delete all of your tweets?
Yeah, I did. I was getting a lot of harassment at that point.
Oh, I'm sure you were, but privating your account, I delete my account every once in a while.
I just want to make one final comment on this, though, because, again, like, it's an interesting conversation. Wednesday says, I think the inevitable goal is to completely free ourselves from the social laws of gender or to abolish gender entirely. Okay, fair enough, but you see how it's... Again, the problem is that because that is outside of social norms around gender, that it's not doing the same thing as she, her, he, him, right? I think like they them potentially does that. Again, it's the extra content borne by it that's not gendered that has the function primarily as a slur. So that's the principal issue I have with it. But we'll keep going on the RGR thing. We won't fixate on that. That's just my final word on the topic for now. I hope I don't have to talk about it again in the future, but maybe I will.
A while and reactivate it when I'm feeling a little, I've got some other stuff to do and I don't want to focus on Twitter.
Yeah, the reason I deleted a lot of my content and I privated my account was because I was getting harassed a lot by people, mostly associated with you and your community. Yeah, I was just getting like constantly harassed, and I was just recovering from surgery around that time. So I just had to do that for my own mental health sake.
You had to delete your tweets for mental health?
Yeah, that's
okay.
A place where people can be able to harass me, yeah.
Well, I mean, you had your account privated. It's a little hard when you're privated.
Well, yeah, I wanted to make sure that when I reopened it, because I wanted to make sure that when I reopened it, that people could not, like, go through and harass me with the tweets that were still on there. That was around...
Can I ask what harassment means to you? I'm sorry for interrupting. If you want to finish what you were saying, I apologize.
Yeah, so around... I'm trying to remember. Was that the Kink at Pride or...
It's around July.
It was around... So that was... Wait, hold on. So that would have been... That was Eat the Rich, right? There are a lot of people who... I didn't do anything to you about Eat the Rich. Okay, well, I know that, like, around that time, there are a lot of people who are sending me death threats.
Oh, yeah, we saw some of those. I think that that's pretty wrong to send you death threats. I think it's pretty inappropriate, pretty wrong. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I've experienced similar things. I'm sorry about that. You have a few members of your community who like to say lots of things about me.
Wait, hold on. So, do you have... Wait, hold on. Who in my community has done anything like that?
Gammy.
Gammy? Hold on, wait. Gammy is not.
I don't know who any of these people
She's
are.
in your chat right now.
Is anyone who's in my chat? Wait, hold on. You are in my
Gammy.
chat.
Yeah, after I was blocked from here.
Sorry, I'm not
okay.
mocking
Oh.
whatever's going on there.
Hold on.
Yes.
No, hold on. Hold on. I'm talking to a lot of people who I disagree with. This is the first time that Gammy has been in my chat in months. All right.
Okay, that's fair, but do you remember when you posted a tweet a while back and you said, here's some really good accounts that I think are really important for you to follow for good trans voices, and one of them was Gammy?
Yeah. No, I remember that.
So at some
I
point
wasn't
you agreed
aware
with
of
some
a
of
lot
the
of
things
the
that she
things
was
that
doing.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Oh,
wasn't aware
Imran,
of
you're
a lot
clipping
of
me
the
and
things
putting me
that
into
she
Doe's
was
server,
doing.
so
Actually,
this
why I
the
ended up
stakes
deleting
are high.
it.
Thank you for
Part of
that.
the reason why I ended up
That would have been
deleting
good
it.
to know before I went on the whole pronouns discussion.
But also, this isn't part of the comment that this isn't what we're talking about. You came here to
Oh,
talk
oh,
about
I mean,
brilliant.
kind of relevant. You were talking about harassment, and I was just curious what you consider
Well, you're
harassment
asking me
because.
why I privated my account and deleted it. So
Well, I'm asking why you
I
deleted
said I was getting a
tweets
lot of
when
harassment.
you were
Yeah.
telling people that others were
Hold on,
quote
wait. Are you
unquote.
saying?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have? All right. So is the allegation? So I just want to be very clear. Do you have any tweets, or are there any tweets that you're alleging where I called you a pedophile?
There were. I don't have any screenshots on me. You deleted them.
So.
Um,
Oh wait. So hold on.
but-
So because I would dispute that is the case, but if I say that, then are you just going to accuse me of lying?
accuse you of lying for I'm sorry, say that again?
Okay, I want to downplay any of this, but I don't know what any of this is that they're talking about. So I'm gonna jump a little bit ahead in the hopes that Kant comes up because I want to see the.
That video, because I think that's what you tweeted here, right?
Yeah, and then your girlfriend, I'm assuming. That's what
That's
I was
the stuff I
Alright,
was
hold
gonna say.
on. I'm not going to talk about the video. Alright, hold on. I'm not here to defend what my girlfriend.
That's okay, Imran. I'm just joking.
Alright,
I'm happy to.
I
I'd be happy to talk to Doe about this at some point.
So you're saying that this.
It'd be an awkward as hell conversation, but it'd be interesting.
That's what you're saying.
I do think saying that someone is intentionally
Be
or
something new.
unintentionally justifying pedophilia is calling them a pedophile, because what you're saying is that they think it's okay to do sexual acts to children.
No.
No.
Don't twist my words.
No.
I don't think I twisted anything.
I don't think that you are being very honest when you say that. All right. So we can listen to the clip right now. I'll listen to it with my chat.
Okay,
All right.
I guess I have to. No, hold on, let me come pull it up really quick. I don't have mine open.
All right. Hold on.
Yeah, you effing with some wet ass people.
Let me go to my media tab.
There's a second clip. Here's a second clip.
He continues in level of unintelligible nonsense, saying that kink is defined as
Kant,
sexuality,
Kant,
therefore
not
involving children
whatever
sexual
that
acts.
is.
This is intentional or not the stupidest sleight of hand I've ever seen. What the fuck are you talking
That's
about?
an insane thing to say to me. I don't know like how that's a defensible statement. Like if you're defining something in relation to sexuality and then you are suggesting that children should be involved in that, you're involving
Tell me
children
what-
in sexuality. That's the most logically
Yes!
valid string of
I can't see
words
the.
that
I can't see what this
can
says here.
off the top of my head, right? So, like, I
Wait,
don't
are you
know.
done already? I think you.
No, I'm waiting for. I'm sorry. I was waiting for you. I was
Oh,
waiting
I'm
for
sorry.
you.
I have a second one that has a little bit more context. That's a little bit longer than the one that I quote tweeted with, but that's okay.
Okay, so
we can both
are
play
you-
it at the same time now if you want.
All right. Wait. Which one are you playing?
Um,
Is it the same clip?
Well, here. How about I do this?
What?
I've got this one that's got a little bit fuller context.
All right. When you say fuller
Oh
context.
shit! I tried to DM it to you so you could see it. It's just at the previous part of the video. I clicked the.
President Sunday, what were your initial impressions of Doe and RGR before this conversation? I have never seen Doe until tonight. Seems okay. RGR. I thought she was treated unfairly in the Demon Mama conversation. She seemed okay, kind of reasonably intelligent. I thought in that panel she was in with Destiny and some other conservatives. Was that with Lawrence Southern? It was with some people. That was an incredibly weak performance. Thoughts on kink at Pride? I mean, I'm not like categorically opposed to sexy outfits or something. I do think you do need to like observe cultural mores and not, make it harder for other people within the LGBTQ, et cetera, spectrum to, get along, especially when there's active prejudice against them. I think that sometimes excessive displays of certain kinds of shocking, and always contextually, of course, shocking within that context, kink or whatever, I think there are ways in which that can be poorly judged. But it's a complicated question. Yes, I mean the German guy by Kant. I mean, this guy writes terribly, terribly long books. They're very boring to read. She uses the categorical imperative. Alright, let's see what happens.
The one part, because
So
I
I
actually
actually
say
have-
pedophile, but the minute leading up to it, I also have a separate video of. But we can
Wait,
just
I'm-
watch the quick one if you really want.
Yeah.
20-second one.
Yeah, well, it's the one that you tweeted at me.
Yeah, the quote tweet. We can watch that one really quick. Ready?
Okay.
Alright, 3, 2,
Really
1.
weird. A lot of people.
Really
from
weird.
Really
A lot
different
of
parts
people
of the internet
from
are
really
coming out
different
with
parts of the
really
internet
weird
are coming out
takes
with really
that apparently
weird
kink is
takes
fine to do in front of
that
children. We
apparently
should be
kink
able
is
to
fine to
justify.
do in front of children. We should be able to justify doing it in front of them, even if it's explicitly involving them in a sexual act. Like, what the fuck is going on? This is unironic. Oh my god. They're either negligently justifying pedophilia or intentionally justifying pedophilia. And I have no idea what the fuck it is.
Okay. So
Yeah.
did you-
And
Okay.
the
So
lead up.
where? So I'm gonna ask you. So where in that clip did I call you a pedophile?
When you say that someone is intentionally or unintentionally, well, there's a couple places.
No, no. Hold on.
Let me
Hold
finish
on.
my
That is
sentence.
not.
Can I
that
please
is
finish my
not
sentence? You
calling
asked me
you
a really
pedophile.
direct question, and you won't let me finish my sentence.
All right. That is not calling you a pedophile. That's saying that you advocated, that you made an argument that is typical to expect that pedophiles would make. All right. That is my argument, and I stand by that argument. We can go into the
Well,
merits of it if you want
Let's
to.
go into the merits, because clearly just talking about this one sentence isn't going to go anywhere. So I think it's prudent of us to talk about your
So, can we-
definition.
Yeah,
can you
so
finish
let's,
the sentence?
well, let's start with exactly what you said. All right? So you said, and I quote, "Some people like feet. If you go shoeless to a public event because your partner likes feet, you're not, quote, involving children in a sexual act." That's what
Yeah.
you said, right?
That is what I said.
You're talking about a foot fetish.
I am talking about a foot fetish. I'm proud of you.
Okay. So I want you to answer me this question. If you are getting off your partner's foot fetish around children, do you think it's not a little reasonable for someone to say, okay, this seems like something that a pedophile may argue, and this person either knows what they're doing or
Well, no. Pedophilia has to do with being sexually attracted to children, not incidentally experiencing sexual arousal while children happen to be somewhere in the environment. Like, probably not a great time to be experiencing that, but that's not pedophilia or pro-pedophilia. That doesn't work. Unless I'm radically mishearing Riley here. This is actually... What am I saying here? I take issue with the degen there. Yeah, I agree. Don't use the word degeneracy to refer to. Don't use that loosely. Sorry, I'm just looking through chat quickly.
they are negligent and they're saying it even though they don't understand its implications.
So, nowhere in this tweet has anyone talked about getting off.
Wait, hold on. What do you think happens when you appeal to someone's sexual kink? Or sorry, we're talking about fetish. We're talking about
sexual desires is what we're talking
We're talking about, we're talking about getting off someone else's
No,
fetish.
you keep saying getting off. Why do you keep saying that?
Because that's the only implication. All right, so I guess.
Can I give you an implication? You're allowed to ask questions if you're confused.
I mean, I'm very much not.
Okay, here's a question. A husband and wife, they're getting up for work in the morning. Kids are running around, yada yada yada, and the husband, I don't know, gets off on the wife in a bathrobe or something like that. Is that violating the consent of the children who are around? By the way, getting off, like, that's not exactly like determinate language. I don't know specifically what that refers to. Do we mean simply like the person finds the idea appealing? Do we mean like actual orgasm? Like, what are we referring to here? This is so non-specific. Generally, like, you can use that just to refer to like, oh, they're kind of into that kind of thing. Am I off base? Like, this is such a weird argument. I want to make sure I'm not misreading something. Also organizes her pride takes into account, selecting carelessly. Did we miss the Kant take? Did I go over that and I just like zoom out and not see it? I feel like I've heard this already, unless it's just like they were just circling the drain the whole conversation.
I can guarantee you that, but let me ask you a question.
Well,
So,
you haven't represented me
your-
correctly yet, so I think you might be just a little bit confused.
I'm gonna doubt that, but let me ask you a question. So, what is your definition of a sexual act?
So, sex acts is like super complex. I think the biggest issue that I actually have, and I mean not biggest, but the first issue I have is probably your definition of sex act. If I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'll give you a chance to in just a second. That a sex act is any action that occurs with sexual intent, sexual desire, right? Is that about right?
Roughly, it's when you do something intentionally and primarily appealing to yours or someone else's sexual desires.
Yeah, okay. So I think I got it about right. So I think that this is so broad as to be useless, and I don't think that any legal system defines it this way. For example,
I would disagree. I would
can
absolutely
I finish
disagree.
my sentence, please?
Yeah, go ahead, but I'm just saying, like, I disagree with that.
I just don't know why you have to interrupt me when I'm in the middle of talking.
Well, I'm just saying that I disagree with that.
Okay, well, in my state, I looked up the sex acts law, and they actually, so I live in North Carolina, and criminal law designates differences between sex acts, sexual contact, sexual activity, and sexual penetration. They define sex acts as the sexual contact of one or more sex organs, including but not limited to cunnilingus, fellatio, analingus, or anal intercourse, or the penetration of any object into the genital or...
I'm willing to accept a definition of sex act that simply is an act that implicates anything sexual, frankly. We can be really broad about that. Even with that definition, though, what is being described here is not a sex act. Because it's not an act. It's a thought or a feeling. Those are not acts. If we want to call thoughts and feelings acts, and there are schools of thought that do so, like there's the whole biblical idea of if you feel angry at your neighbor, you have murdered them in your heart. You can do that, I suppose, but even then it wouldn't be pedophilia because it's not oriented towards the children. They just happen to be incidentally in the environment. And, like, if they aren't aware of its existence, if this isn't being broadcast to them, it may as well be in a different room, because that's what the inside of your head is. It's a private space nobody else has access to.
or anal opening of another person's body. Sexual contact is a focus on touching a person's, quote, intimate parts. Sexual penetration is, we can understand that. And sexual activity, the main thing that they listed there was masturbation.
Okay,
So we have a lot of different, it's a very varied, the legal system is a very varied way of approaching these kinds of discussions. And it's,
so I actually, there's some interesting context because I've actually taken, so as you know, I'm a law student. I've actually taken criminal law.
You fooled me.
Of how we've gotten to like our
Good God.
Common law rape standard.
I probably don't know the history as well as you do, being a law student, but I was actually in the middle of talking. I don't know,
Well,
again,
you're-
why you
you're
interrupted
going
me.
on
I was actually, you asked me a really direct
I like Doe. I'm enjoying this part.
question, and I was actually walking my way through it. I don't know why you keep doing this.
I mean, like, if you keep talking and you just keep going on and you...
I
give
just
a
listed a
long-winded
legal
answer-
systems sex acts and the way that it differentiates between it, because one of my points
Is there
here
anything-
is
sorry,
that
is
this
there
is a
anything
very nuanced conversation, and I think you lose some of the nuance that I think is really important to this conversation.
You're right. So we can go through that and we can talk about why those definitions are in fact problematic. Because the history of the evolution of the legal standard for what constitutes a sex act has actually been to broaden it more over time. Historically, rape was only the penetration of a vagina by a penis by a man of a woman,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
using excessive force.
Oh
But
man, I need a
the
chiropractor
reason
so
why
bad.
that's not the standard anymore. The reason why that's not the standard anymore is because we realize that actually sex acts are a lot more than just physical penetration.
That's true.
Yeah, that is true. So I would not say that the law is a good heuristic to be able to rely on in this conversation, since we are able to recognize that sex and sex act are a lot more than just basic forms of penetration.
I agree. I actually listed things that weren't penetration. I listed
Yeah, and I
multiple
would say
things
that
that
we
weren't
still need a
penetration.
broader, and I would say that we still need a broader understanding of sex acts.
No, we
because
didn't
you
miss
end
the
up
con
excluding
take?
A lot of
Oh,
very
wait, that's still
harmful
coming up.
situations that run into the problem of violating one's consent.
That is where I was going to move the conversation, as a question of consent. And because you seem to, again, correct me if I'm wrong, have a view that we consent to seeing things in public, that that's like a thing that happens.
No, wait, hold on. My exact view in respect to consent, especially as it concerns sex,
Doe has very
is
interesting
that
eyebrows.
If you are going to, if someone is going to involve you in a sex act or do something around you as a sex act, then you need
Like,
to
it's hard to
require
read
their
expressions
consent
sometimes.
to
It's
do
interesting.
that. If you do not,
I don't know why I'm
then
commenting
you
on
violate
that.
their consent, you categorically cause them harm. Children cannot
Wait,
consent
how do you cause them harm?
because you're violating a fundamental deontological rule.
That doesn't mean anything. Can you explain that?
Yeah, there are certain things which, if you do, they are inherently morally wrong. Murder is an example. You do it is inherently morally wrong.
Why?
Violating someone's consent is inherently morally wrong. The reason why goes back to the Kantian categorical imperative. If we were to do certain things in society, then that would mean that we end up leading to a contradiction, whereas we end up not being able to have the thing that we wanted to begin with. If you go around violating other people's consent, then we end up justifying a world...
No, 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 no. No, Riley. That is not how that works. No, it's not a consequentialist argument. The point is that the moral is the universal. And therefore, a moral maxim has to be one that can be universalizable, right? So it can be true in all cases. It's not that, well, if it's not true in all cases, then we can reach a contradiction, and that's why it goes back. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Where anyone can violate anyone's consent, we no longer have consent. And I really care about consent. So I say we do everything we can to respect consent, especially concerning sex.
I think we should absolutely respect consent too. I think it's really important. I just don't think that when it comes to the public, that there is a very good argument for seeing something, being involved in it. Now we're not even in
Hold on, no, it's not the seeing the thing. All right, that's not the issue. The issue is not seeing the. Well, I mean, like, it's sort of seeing the thing. It depends
is.
on.
Look,
You say
this
that it's not
kills me.
seeing.
This kills me. Look. The book you have to read to understand Kant's treatment of the categorical imperative is this thin. And this is like, there's a bunch of extra material on this. It's this thin. It's like, what is it, like 90 pages? Less than that, I think. It might even be like 60 pages. Hang on. Let me actually look this thing quickly. It's been a little while. Oh my god. Are there no table? Is there no contents on this? Who edited this thing? Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's like 50 some odd pages. It's like nothing. Nothing. Guess a little work is too much work for the hardworking DGGers.
That they don't have, you haven't gotten the consent of
No.
others to see it, to
Hold
be
on.
around you while
No.
you do it.
Wait, hold on. No,
I thought that's what you just said. I'm sorry if it's not. I was just.
No, we're focusing on consent, and the
Yeah.
consent is either about the risk. It's either about being involved in the sex act or the risk of being involved.
Okay. So
The risk of being involved in this. What does that mean?
what does being involved mean? Because it seems
depends
like
I want to know what the risk of being involved means. But the risk of being. I'm sure there's something serious she has in mind, but like the risk of being involved in a sex act. What is? What does that mean? The risk of being involved in a sex act.
Like sexual act, there's a lot of different sex acts, I would say. For example, we can imagine situations where people,
What book is that? It's Kant's Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals. Another categorical imperative. Yeah.
like in the BDSM community, are engaging in a sexual act where both are getting off despite the fact that they may not be touching each other at all. Like, we can easily imagine this kind of a conversation. Or we can imagine, like, if someone is watching porn, we can imagine that, like, oh, well, in that case, they're not touching another person. They're probably engaging in some kind of sex act. Or, like, phone sex, which has sex in the name. You're not talking to another person.
Hang on a
You
sec.
call that a sex
Hang
act.
on, I'm just going to rewind this very quickly because this will tell us everything we need to know and then we can stop.
We can go through that and we can talk about why those definitions are in fact problematic. Because the history of the evolution of the legal standard for what constitutes a sex act has actually been to broaden it more over time. Historically, rape was only the penetration of a vagina by a penis by a man of a woman, and using excessive force. But the reason why that's not the standard anymore, is because we realize that actually sex acts are a lot more than just physical penetration.
that's true.
Yeah, that is true. So I would not say that the law is a good heuristic to be able to rely on in this conversation, since we are able to recognize that sex and sex acts are a lot more than just basic forms of penetration.
I agree. I actually listed things that weren't penetration. I listed
Yeah, and I
multiple
would say
things
that
that
we
weren't
still need a
penetration.
broader, and I would say that we still need a broader understanding of sex acts, because you end up excluding a lot of very harmful situations that run into the problem of violating one's consent.
That is where I was going to move the conversation, as a question of consent. And because you seem to, again, correct me if I'm wrong, have a view that we consent to seeing things in public. That that's like a thing that happens.
Now, wait, hold on. My exact view in respect to consent, especially as it concerns sex, is that if someone is going to involve you in a sex act or do something around you as a sex act, then you need to acquire their consent to do that. If you do not, then you violate their consent, you categorically cause them harm. Children cannot
Wait,
consent
how do you cause them harm?
because you're violating a fundamental deontological rule.
That doesn't mean anything. Can you explain that?
Yeah, there are certain things which, if you do, they are inherently morally wrong. Murder is an example. You do it is inherently morally wrong.
Why?
Violating someone's consent is inherently morally wrong. The reason why goes back to the Kantian categorical imperative. If we were to do certain things in society,
No. The reason why, again, like this is such a butchery. The reason why murder is inherently morally wrong is because it's baked into the definition. It's killing that is morally wrong, right? Like that's why we distinguish between soldiers killing in war and people murdering, and people killing their neighbor because they're angry with them. That's murder. The other one is killing, or between killing accidentally through negligence. Like the negligence is morally wrong, but it's not murder because the killing itself didn't have like immoral intent or something. She just doesn't know what she's talking about.
then that would mean that we end up leading to a contradiction, whereas we end up not being able to have the thing that we wanted to begin with. If you go around violating other people's consent, then we end up justifying a world where anyone can violate anyone's consent. We no longer have consent. And I really care about consent. So I say we do everything we can to respect consent, especially concerning sex.
I think we should absolutely respect consent too. I think it's really important. I just don't think that when it comes to the public, that there is a very good argument for seeing something, being involved in it. Now we're not even in
Hold on, no, it's not the seeing the thing. All right, that's not the issue. The issue is not seeing the. Well, I mean, like it's sort of seeing the thing. It depends on.
You say that it's about seeing that they don't have. You haven't gotten the consent of others to see it, to be around you while you do it.
Wait, hold on. No,
I thought that's what you just said. I'm sorry if it's not. I was just...
We're focusing on consent, and the consent is either about the risk. It's either about being involved in the sex act or the risk of being involved.
Okay. So, what does being involved mean? Because it seems
depends
like
on the sexual act. There's a lot of different sex acts, I would say. For example, we can imagine situations where people, like in the BDSM community, are engaging in a sexual act where both are getting off despite the fact that they may not be touching each other at all. Like, we can easily imagine this kind of a conversation. Or we can imagine, like, if someone is watching porn, we can imagine that, like, oh, well, in that case, they're not touching another person. They're probably engaging in some kind of sex act. Or, like, phone sex, which has sex in the name. You're not talking to another person. We would call that a sex act. Or you are talking to another person.
Oh, there's more Kant
digital,
coming?
right?
I don't... Oh,
like, the whole point is that I want to make sure...
Kant isn't super exciting when it's used properly, right?
I think that any of these instances, you would agree with me, constitute sex, and if not, we end up getting into incredibly dangerous situations.
No, it has to be an act, though.
any of the things that
An
you
act.
just listed constitute sex?
No, do they constitute...
I would say that they are sex acts, specifically. Like, for example, let's say... Here, we'll go through some hypotheticals. Let's say that you are interacting... let's say that you have, like, a crush on or you know someone else who has, like, a crush on a coworker wherever it is that you work.
This hypothetical got out really quick. So I know somebody who has a crush on a coworker.
Okay.
Okay.
And let's say that in that instance, the person who has the crush takes a picture of the coworker without their knowledge and ends up masturbating to it without their consent. Would you agree with me that this is something which is morally wrong?
I think that the taking depends on the kind of picture and
Just
the
that it's just
expectation
them.
of what?
Let's just say that it's just them in their work uniform.
I don't know if I can morally condemn someone for masturbating and thinking about somebody. Taking a picture without somebody's consent is like the strange part.
Okay, hold on. Now, all right, wait.
The trick would be if they're legally permitted to take photographs of people in that particular venue, if that's considered like a public space, because there's more particularity about this. But if like the law permits something in a space, and we're going by the assumption that you live in a democratic society in which the law reflects, in which you tacitly consent to the law, then therefore, by extension, you consent to at least other people choosing to take a photograph of you in that context. That's why we can't complain about people taking pictures of us in public. Generally speaking, there's more to it than that, and I think there's definitely like there are ethical issues. I don't know if it's necessarily. I don't know. We'll see where she goes with this.
That is you have to. All right, let's elaborate on that then. All right, then let's say that after that coworker masturbates to the person who they did not acquire the consent, be able to masturbate to that person, that they go and they tell that person that they masturbated to them. Would you reasonably expect that the person who was masturbated to without their knowledge would probably feel violated to some degree?
I don't have to consider it. It's happened to me. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Okay, cool. So no, it's not just weird. You would say that that's morally wrong.
Okay, so this is being slippery. Feeling violated is not the same thing as being violated, right? Now, I would lean towards an uncharitable reading of somebody saying that and characterize that as a violation of something else, something a little below the law, like a kind of general trust or a kind of social mores. But the distinguishing factor here can't be somebody feels violated, because while that feeling violated is legitimate, the feeling violated doesn't actually represent something real in the world for other people. That is a subjective part of your experience, right? So it's not that a violation has occurred objectively where other people can identify a violation. You're reporting a feeling that you describe as a feeling of violation. And that's valid, and you shouldn't be provoking those feelings in other people generally, but Like, that's... Like, for example, a thief can feel violated when somebody breaks in and discovers their stash, right? But that doesn't mean they were violated. They didn't have a right to those belongings or to their secrecy. Make sense?
We're gonna have a moral problem in this debate. I'm trying not to like make it the point because it doesn't matter. But
No, wait, hold on. It absolutely does. Violating someone's consent
I'm sorry.
is paramount. I want to make sure that we are protecting people.
I don't believe in morals the way that you do, so I'm trying to avoid that kind of conversation because we don't need to have a meta-ethical conversation in this discussion. I don't think that I could say that it's morally wrong to masturbate to somebody, but I think telling them is strange. I don't know if I would say it's morally wrong. It clearly is going to make them uncomfortable. But
now, wait. So hold on. So if you masturbate to someone else and you don't get their consent, then it's fine as long as they don't find out.
yeah, I don't. I would say that there are ways that it can be wrong.
Wait, so you... She doesn't specify the photograph anymore here. Is RGR arguing that if you masturbate while thinking of somebody else without calling them up and informing them that you are committing a moral... This is surreal. Like, that's ridiculous. On what grounds? Like, I need to hear something, right? Like, you don't...
Waves.
I think that sexual desire towards children.
Well, here's a question. Like, why are we specifying masturbation? Like, why not simply having lustful thoughts about a person? Or without, like, manipulating your organs to produce a physical result, what about simply entertaining sexual thoughts about somebody else without their permission in the first place? Are we considering that a moral wrong? I mean, there are Christian sects that consider that to be a moral wrong, so you're not necessarily without company there, RGR. I just wonder if, you know, this is the most receptive audience to that.
Hold on. Wait, pause. No, we're talking about the nature of what is a sex act. Do not pivot away from this.
I wasn't trying to pivot away. I was trying to tell you an example of where I thought it would be wrong.
Okay, so the example would be wrong if it would be children?
Yeah, I think that there's something inherently predatory about...
Right, so what if we're talking about an adult?
Yeah, that's what I was working to. I don't think that I can say that it's wrong to think about somebody and masturbate to them.
Even if you don't... Alright, so why do you think that if they ended up going to tell, if you masturbate to someone, that if you go and you tell that person that you masturbated to them, why do you think that they might be a little put off?
Because you've made them into an object a little bit in your mind. Even if you consider them as a full subject, it's objectification.
I think my answer to that would be, if you tell them that, well, now you're involving them in this. Like, that's where it gets weird. It's like, okay, why are you telling me this, right? Like, that puts immediate questions and conclusions into the mind of the person you're telling. That's not a thing people normally do. And it almost smacks of a proposal or something, or proposition rather. And that would be involving them in something extraordinarily uncomfortable without their consent. But the discomfort directly stems from you making them aware of it.
Hold on, no, the average person, no, the average person, oh, hold on. Yeah, and that's not necessarily the case.
Sure.
All right, that's not necessarily the case. It could be the case, but no, you actually totally no. You just you're really infatuated with them. You see them totally as a person, but you masturbate to them without their consent.
Sure, I think that there's still a level of objectification that can occur there. It doesn't have to, but yeah.
So,
but it can make you feel.
Do you think that's the only reason
like an object when you're told?
If they're told that they were masturbated to without acquiring their consent.
Can you ask that question again? I was trying to talk. I didn't know that you were talking. What'd you say?
All right. Do you think that is the only reason why someone who learns that they were masturbated to without their consent would be off-put at learning that new knowledge?
Do I think that they would be off-put? Is that what you just asked?
I'm asking you, do you think that the reason that you gave is the only reason why?
No, I've already said that. I think that they're...
Why do the reasons they would feel put off matter here precisely? Those are feelings. Like, people can feel put off for anything depending on what they're raised to be accustomed to. In a culture where people are accustomed to informing others that they have masturbated to them, as that becomes normalized, people wouldn't feel violated by that. It would just be sort of accepted as a more. It's sort of like how we don't feel particularly awkward about going to weddings, even though they're literally celebrations of the fact that, oh, now these two people are allowed to sleep with each other at the end of the party. Like, it's a little freaking weird when you think about it, but it's normalized, so we're not really offended by it.
The reasons can be multitudinous, like it.
Like what?
Well, becoming a sexualized object in the mind of somebody else is itself. I know it did.
So say something else.
I don't know the reasons that everyone might come away with feeling a negative feeling from a particular event. Lots of things
I'm
can lead
going
up
to
to
give
that.
you the answer.
Now,
The answer is violating their consent.
But you didn't violate their consent.
You did violate their consent. Yes, you did.
How?
If this person, this
How?
hypothetical, masturbated someone else and did not acquire their consent to do so, you violated their consent.
How did?
No. You violate someone's consent if you do something that you require their consent for, right? Look, I'm carrying a book here. I'm not gonna tell you, but I'm gonna do something to this book. I'm not gonna tell you. Oh, I dropped it. Did I violate your consent because I didn't ask you if I could drop the book first, or because I didn't inform you that I would? No, of course not. Here's one. What if I take a picture of an interlocutor in a debate, and I don't tell them I'm doing this, but I use their likeness in a thumbnail for a video? Have I violated their consent? I guarantee you I'm going to find people's faces in RGR's YouTube page if I scroll through those.
Did you violate their consent?
Because you were able to use an aspect of them to get yourself off sexually without their permission.
You used your mind to get yourself off.
You used that person, the image of that person.
I'm sorry, Mohammed. I forgot my microphone's right next to the book where I was landing.
Hold on, wait. All right, I need to ask you.
I'm a terrible YouTuber.
So is the problem, like, if someone does not know that you use them to get off sexually, then it's fine?
It depends on how you use them.
Why does it depend?
Well, because there are some ways where you can physically use somebody, and there are some ways in which it remains entirely in your mind. I don't think desire itself requires somebody else's consent.
Why does the physicality matter? There are easily sex acts that we can imagine, which are not strictly physical.
Can you name one for me?
Well, if they're not physical, then they're not acts. That's what acts are. They're physical things, right? Even speech acts have to be said.
Like masturbating to someone.
But you didn't do an action to them.
Yeah, but you're using them. You are using.
No, you're. Oh wait, she's gonna, or it's gonna say that.
Your mind.
No, you're using their likeness in your mind, like your imagination. That's not them. That's an image referring to them in your mind. That belongs to you. The image of yourself that you present when you go outdoors, that's public domain. That belongs to other people. That doesn't mean legally you can just use it on whatever you want, and you need to show respect to people. But in terms of, like, your memories and your experiences, those belong to you. You don't need to ask somebody else's permission for what you do with those things. Within the context of your mind, no less.
In your mind, you're imagining them. If you have the picture, like I said, the picture seems to be like the weird part of that, but like...
Alright, hold on. I'm going to give you another example, and I'm going to ask you to distinguish it. Alright? Because I'm trying to get exactly, like, what your morals are here. If you have someone... Let's say that you have a person who goes out into public, alright? And they have a humiliation fetish.
Yeah.
Okay? And they go out in front of anyone. It could be children, but just anyone who has not provided consent. And they... I don't know. Let's say that they, like, defecate themselves, all right? And
I didn't know they had a scab fetish too. Jesus.
I don't.
I don't know why you're trying to get like ad-homs or whatever in.
Wait,
Anyway.
Wait, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't. I said I don't know why they have a scat fetish. That wasn't. I was joking. You gave them one fetish and then you added another. I just was being silly. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to ad-hom you.
It's a. We're talking about someone with a humiliation.
Imran, why am I
right?
watching
The
this?
point is that they go out into public, all right, and then around other people, they defecate themselves. Other people see them, and as a consequence of other people seeing them, they orgasm. Specifically because other people watch them. Would you say that this violates the consent of the other people watching them?
No, I don't think so.
What? All right, hold on, wait, no. Why?
That was the most uncharismatic what I've ever heard. I mean, the person is guilty of making people uncomfortable. You know that meme online about like that meme about like the Flash? He's like, "It was me, Barry. I jerked you off at supersonic so you thought you nutted at just a woman's touch." Like that thing. Let's say for argument's sake that happened without Reverse Flash or whatever he's called doing that. Like, let's say you were just super easily stimulated and you orgasm just from the mere sight or physical contact unintentionally with another person. Have you violated their consent? No. No. If we're talking about involving another person in a sex act by triggering a response in them specifically that you then get off of, that's a little weird. I'm actually not on board with Doe on this one. That one, it's crossing some line. I'm not sure if I would go as far as to say it's violating consent, but it's violating something. If as what seemed to be where the conversation went before, if somebody wearing something that reveals like feet or whatever is walking around and you see them wearing that and you have a foot fetish and that gets you off, I don't think, so long as you keep that private and you don't make people uncomfortable, I don't think that violates any rule. I don't think people need to give you their consent for you to get off on their appearance or the idea of them. Yeah, because that's private. Like, did you did they violate your consent by being visible to you? That doesn't make any sense. Although that's probably where this is going. It's the whole kink at pride discourse, right? So it's like, well, why are you assigning this essential? Why are you assigning acts to appearances and whatnot, or something along those lines? Am I making sense? Public indecency is the problem, not the absence of consent. Yeah, basically, like the issue is violating social mores, not so much with violating consent. Like, I don't imagine needing consent to accidentally. Well, here's an example. Let's say somebody vomits and you have a vomiting fetish, and you get off on that, but you keep it to yourself. Have you violated their consent? No. No, you don't need their consent to react to a thing privately, right? So voluntary versus involuntary. Well, that's what consent concerns, is whether or not you are voluntarily taking part in something that can only be justified on the grounds that you are engaged in it voluntarily. In the case of the person who defecates and then, as a reaction to that defecation, gets off on people's reaction to that, on people's disgust or whatever, that I think violates their consent, because that's actually involving them consciously. I don't think, for example, if the person had a humiliation fetish and simply was humiliated by screwing up something at work, say, if they got off on that and didn't mention that to anybody and kept that to themselves, didn't make people uncomfortable, that's not violating anyone's consent. It's fucking weird, but it's not violating anyone's consent. Like, there's... I don't know what Riley's argument is. How the heck... Riley's a law student. Last I checked, most law programs aren't undergraduate. You complete an undergraduate program and then you go into law school. That's what I planned to do at one point. So she must have, like, some actual education outside of law. Why can't she think? Like, in all seriousness, like, this is just stupid. This is so stupid. And then just, like, the absolutely atrocious conduct. Just the constant interruptions. The obnoxious, just, no, don't pivot. Like, when Doe has been, at least for the vast majority of the conversation, just entirely cooperative and amicable. And quiet, frankly. She hasn't been interrupting RGR at all. I think RGR is just kind of acting at this point. Like, just hungrily trying to get, Twitch drama cash, effectively, is what it means at the end of the day. I mean, the irony of it, of course, is Demon Mama, in that initial interaction, where Demon Mama was treating RGR quite unfairly, I think, characterized her as doing the kind of thing Destiny does. And one of the things that I criticized Demon Mama for back in the day is that she had a tendency, which she shed mostly, which is good, to try and reenact what I interpreted to be like Vosh moments. Without proper setup or justification, so it would look really strange because it would seem like she's trying to force certain kinds of interactions where they weren't really appropriate. That's what's going on here, but she's doing so recreating the kinds of interactions that Destiny has. I am, like, I since that debate panel she was on, I didn't think she was particularly smart. But this is actually embarrassing. But I'm glad I got introduced to Doe in this, because Doe seems like a smart cookie. Is that misgendering? Doe's a deer, not a cookie? Whatever. I'm a boomer. We didn't hear RGR talk about drunk driving again. I'm gonna take it on faith that RGR botched Kant again, because she would. I need to get off my chair because this thing is so uncomfortable. Yeah, well, she's imitating Destiny entirely, like, down to the mannerisms, right? And, like, I've picked up little things, too, because they help you in debate, because they've discovered ways of engaging through this medium that are effective at asserting yourself under pressure. And using those things is perfectly fine. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is RGR is she has skits effectively in her head planned off planned out, rather. I'll just talk about getting off. It's muddling my brain. She has these skits planned out in her head, and she tries to push them in anywhere she can, especially when she's cornered or she feels insecure. And it's obvious. Like, at least with Destiny, he originated it. It's coming from his personality most of the time. He does the same thing, of course. But this is just dumb. But Doe is a very charismatic person, so I'm glad I discovered Doe. Alright, well, I'm going to call it here. My back's killing me. I need to get something to drink, and I need to finish reading my book. So, thanks everybody for sitting through this very bizarre, impromptu, unplanned stream about something I'm not entirely sure what it is yet. But, take care. Arrivederci. And, Imran, you owe me money for making me sit through this.